just a matter of when. The $20 billion plan to power Singapore with Australian solar, ambitious export plan could generate billions and make Australia the centre of low-cost energy in a future zero-carbon world.
Here's a summary of the article.
Renewable energy watchers are cautiously optimistic they could help spark a new way of thinking about Australia's energy exports, one that better aligns with the country's commitment to the Paris Climate Agreement, rather than broadening a fossil fuel trade at odds with it. Ross Garnaut, former advisor to Labour governments who is now Professor of Economics at the University of Melbourne and chairman of the Australian-German Energy Transition Hub, makes the case that there is another way ahead. In a recent lecture series that is being turned into a book, he lays out his analysis of how Australia, with the best renewable energy resource in the developed world, could expand its energy production while significantly reducing global emissions. Garnaut points to the transformative reduction in the capital cost of renewable energy and energy storage over the past 2 decades. If you have the transmission of electricity over very large distances between countries, then the flow of energy changes from liquid fuels, oil and LNG, to electrons. Ultimately, that's a vastly more efficient way to transport energy. The incumbents just won't be able to compete. The developers, a consortium of Intercontinental Energy, CWP Energy Asia, wind energy company Vestas and financiers at the Macquarie Group, began with a plan to send energy to Indonesia via sub-sea cable. Dixon points to recent appraisals by the Australian chief scientist, Alan Finkel, and the International Energy Agency as evidence of hydrogen's potential. Roger Dargaville, a senior lecturer in renewable energy at Monash University and member of the Energy Transition Hub, underlines the amount of work that is going into examining what a future of clean exports will look like.
This post received a score of 4,625, with an upvote ratio of 97%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
I'll bet Australia will use none of it if it happens because our government is fucking owned by coal mines.
Lol, yep, we'll be the source of a carbon-neutral world while still burning them good old fossil fuels.
Australia already has an undersea cable connecting Tasmania to the mainland. It has a history of failing and taking weeks or months to fix. Before Singapore can rely on Australian power, they'd better make sure they have plenty of redundant cables in operation.
Sun Cable's chief executive, David Griffin, says the major transformation that makes the farm possible is the advent of high-voltage, direct current submarine cable, which he describes as the greatest unsung technology development. The funny thing about technology is it is always improving and being reinvented.
I could understand new technology making it more reliable. The issue is that, if the underwater part fails, it takes months for a cable repair ship to turn up. That's compared to land-based transmission lines when repair crews can turn up in hours. And even if they could make the underwater cables somehow perfect, that doesn't stop some ship dropping anchor on it or earthquakes, etc. Relying on a single cable for a big chunk of your power is very risky. You need at least 2 over different routes.
Let's hope they learn from Baslink's failures and take steps to mitigate the risks.
But Australia won't power Australia with solar. They are doing the opposite and opening more coal mines, with one close to the Great Barrier Reef.
While the government looks to a few thousand people who openly support the mine that live and work nearby, completely ignoring pretty much everyone else, including literally thousands of school kids in multiple cities across the country which have marched in protest, basically saying, hey, we have to live with the consequences, so shut that shit down. Not to mention the rest of the Western world who are at least saying that they're working to reduce their CO2 output. Versus our idiots, which are instead sitting there with their fingers in their ears, complaining about all these kids who are leaving school a few hours early on a Friday to protest instead of staying in school.
Added to that, Adani pushed for government funding because they couldn't get any major international bank to fund it. Due to the decline in demand for coal globally, the business case doesn't really stack up, but damn it, they're going to build it and trash the GBR anyway.
How much loss is there when having to travel so far?
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.